Gianna, welcome to Bloomington and the Jacobs School of Music. Where are you from, and where and with whom did you study ballet?
I was born in Jersey, in Bergen County. When I was around 10, I started to train at the School of American Ballet, and I basically up and moved to New York at that time, so I kind of feel a little bit like I grew up in New York. I was like a city kid, so I do kind of say I'm from New York, even though I technically am from Jersey. Yeah, I studied at the School of American Ballet for 7 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And who were some of your primary choreographic influences, and what elements of their styles sort of creep into your own?
There's a lot. There's a range, because I feel like I'm still finding my own voice as a choreographer. I do make a lot of like neoclassical ballets, but I also am kind of transitioning into like modern dance and more like contemporary abstract stuff. So it kind of fluctuates. I would say like at my roots, it's like Balanchine and Robbins. That's what I grew up dancing, like that's what I grew up watching when I was at the school. Like seeing Balanchine's work allowed me to understand what choreography was, and what musicality was. But then there's like a whole range of like Pina Bausch and Ohad Naharin and Crystal Pite and like those people, Martha Graham, you know, that I feel like I'm also incredibly inspired by, even in my ballet stuff too. I think it all kind of informs each other in some sense or another.
You're the youngest choreographer to be commissioned by New York City Ballet. That's such an honor. How did that come to be?
I made like a pas de deux on two of my friends, to like a short little folky violin, solo violin from Mason Bates. I don't know if you know who that is. He's kind of, yeah. And the then director of New York City Ballet, Peter Martins, was there. He would like, you know, the director of New York City Ballet is always kind of involved with the school because that's how, you know, people get hired with the company. And he saw the piece and just really liked it, thought that I had something, and kind of then asked me to create work for the New York Choreographic Institute, which is like kind of for like professional choreographers. I was still a student, so that was quite rare. And then the next year asked me to make a work on the company. So it was basically like like my first ever work for stage was for the New York City Ballet in Lincoln Center. And I was 18.
Wow, that's surreal.
Yeah, it was surreal.
Has that changed your career in that you primarily choreograph now, or are you still a dancer actively as well?
That was another thing that was a little like tricky for me, because I was kind of pushed choreographically like right out of school, but I really was of the opinion that I needed to keep dancing in order to inform my work, and like that I had this fear that I would feel like I would hit a wall at some point if I stopped dancing, and I wouldn't be able to like further, you know, my ideas as a choreographer. And also like working for 7 years at a really like intense ballet school and like working towards a goal like that to dance professionally, I didn't want to just kind of like throw it away. I felt in my gut that like I needed to at least exhaust it for a little bit. So I did kind of balance dancing professionally and choreographing for a few years. I danced with Dresden Semper Opera Ballet in Germany. as an apprentice, and then I transitioned to a company spot with Benjamin Millepied at LA Dance Project, and I was there for a couple years, dancing and choreographing and kind of taking commissions elsewhere. It was like a tough thing to balance, I think, and I think any dancer choreographer will say at some point you need to kind of make the choice to put the dancing away or to just choose one. And I think when the pandemic happened, I kind of, along with a lot of people, felt called to something or like a change of some kind. So I stopped dancing professionally. I do for myself to like keep my body, like it's my tool still. So yeah, I'll take class, and I just recently did an intensive, like a dance intensive in Berlin. So yeah, but choreography is like my main thing now.
Speaking though of how careers evolve and how things happen, you've in recent years have had a foray into filmmaking too. Can you tell us a little bit about that intersection with dancing and choreographing?
Yeah, it's funny because I think weirdly, like a lot of people like in the arts, I think gravitated towards filmmaking during COVID because that was like the only medium that was like kind of still allowed, which was interesting. Like, I mean, yeah, my like entire career up until that point had been like live theater. So when all of that shut down, I kind of was like, what next? And I had a commission to go back to SAB to make a piece for they have this winter ball for like younger students, kind of like a performance opportunity for them, also a donor event kind of thing. And in 2022, they were like, we got to make a film because we can't do an in-person performance. They gave me a location. It was this beautiful Jazz at Lincoln Center, like this amazing space. And it was my first time like really like working with like a camera operator and like thinking about, dance in a film setting. How like I wanted it all to be in one shot, of course, because I like to make my life complicated. And so there was like a lot, and it really just like, I just loved it so much. I thought it was just such a interesting, like different way to like look at making work. Yeah, and then I kind of just got into it and like started movement directing for like different things. I like to like work with like fashion campaigns and stuff with like models that like need a little bit of like loosening up or like just kind of using film as a medium to like share like being in the body is really interesting to me. I'd like to do more of it. Since then I kind of have just been thrown back into live theater, but I'd like to do more of it, yeah.
We could find some of the film examples on your website, I imagine.
Yeah, you can.
So what is your creative process like in general? Do you follow a formula, or do you intentionally try to be organic and spontaneous each time that you put choreography on people?
This is interesting because I think since I was thrown into this career so young, I didn't know what I was doing. So like for the first like couple years of my career making work for the first time, like came in like so prepared, like down to the step kind of thing, step and count. Like I had everything like planned out. And I think that served a purpose for me at the time. I think being at the front of the room in any sense, being a leader in any sense is like vulnerable, like very vulnerable. And to be that young, working with virtually no experience, working with like professional dancers was extremely vulnerable and intimidating to me. So I think the thought of like going in and just trusting myself to just like come up with it was like not on the cards at all. So I kind of like went in like ultra prepared, which, like I said, I think served me at the time. But now that I've grown and like become accustomed with my process, I now like always just like start with the music. It's always the first thing that like, that's the seed that's planted to grow whatever it becomes. And from there, like I like to just study the music, like sit with it for a while. Like hopefully I have like quite a bit of time to like sit with it and really, you know, ideas will come, I'll write them down. I'll kind of like sometimes have like a structure in my head. But in terms of steps, like, or counts or any of that, like I could go into the studio now and I can play the music and I can just be. I think it was almost like a thing for me too, where I was afraid to like look stupid or like look like I didn't have an idea. So I came in with all the ideas to like make it known to people that like I was ready to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas now I feel like I've kind of just like come into myself. I mean, I've gotten older for one, but I've also like done this a lot at this point and worked with companies that I've never worked with before. But I would say that like every process is very different in terms of just like, yeah, I don't really have a formula. They're all unique in their own way, depending on usually the dancers that I'm working with.
Yeah.
So.
You tend to have from what I've observed, a rather wide variety of musical interests and influences on the pieces that you create. So
yeah.
Tell us about the work by Strauss that you're doing for IU for Fall Ballet. How did you select that piece, and actually what piece is it?
Okay, so I'm really excited to work with Strauss. I think maybe the last time I was here I did full orchestra, but I am very much like a chamber music solo instrument girl. Like I don't really go there all too often. One, because it's not always accessible and it's expensive, and you know, like it just kind of depends. So like to have the privilege to do that is really exciting, and live. So I basically was tasked with Strauss, and they wanted something that was like 20 to 25 minutes. And obviously Strauss doesn't make anything that's 20 minutes. So like I kind of had to just like put together like a sort of like a suite, something that, and Vincent helped me a lot, like to kind of, we had like a bunch of options and we kind of like, you know, would put things in a certain order, be like, okay, this is option A and B and whatever. And we eventually like came to a sort of nice little like 20-minute suite, starting with the overture from Die Fledermaus. And then we have two short polkas, and then ending with Voices of Spring. And I think like they're all like very famous works of his, but I kind of wanted to do that. Like I wanted to like just kind of dive in. When I first heard the music, I was like, you know what, I think I need to like, this needs to be like a tutu ballet. That's kind of like where the polkas come in the middle. Like there's like female variations and like a pas de trois, and so it's like quite classically structured, and it's going to be really fun, I think.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
It's exciting. So how has your experience been working with the dancers and the faculty at the Jacobs Ballet Theater so far?
Amazing. Yeah, it's been amazing. It like there's such a positive environment here, I think, for one, which really, really helps. I just really, really enjoy working with students. It's always honestly like some of the most fulfilling processes that I've had working with students. There's that like that sparkle still, you know, like that drive that they have like a whole career ahead of them, that kind of thing. They're still eager to learn. So it's been really, really sweet. And I really got to kind of choose from all 4 classes, like freshman through senior, like just kind of, so there's like a really great variety, and the ballet is big. It's like cast of 25, and hopefully we can put 2 casts on. So there's like 50 dancers that like are in the room with me, and it's just a good energy. Yeah.
What do you feel that you and your contemporaries, what barriers do you feel that you are breaking in modern ballet, and how are you moving the art form forward while still honoring the traditions?
That's a good question. I mean, I can't really speak for anybody else. I think, like I said, like I'm kind of like finding my voice a bit, and like kind of trying to understand my range in a way. Like I really, really love modern dance as well. What's interesting about ballet is like the question I ask myself a lot, and I'm sure like people that make ballet ask this question as well, like the farther we move into like this modern day, like where does the line of classical ballet end and like modern dance start? Because there's like neoclassical, right? And like you could say like Balanchine kind of like was like the figurehead of like that like neoclassical kind of genre, like the in-between. And then you like think about like Forsyth and like how he took like the form of ballet and just like stretched it to like become a different thing. And I would consider that like contemporary ballet. And then like, so it's really interesting. I don't really know. I like to stay like quite classic with it, but I think that like I do have my like inherent quirks that like just come out. Like I love a flexed foot, and like I love a turned in passe, like, you know, like things like that. I think Forsyth's work does inspire me a lot because like he has kind of like I said, taken that form and like stretched it out and like twisted it around and like pull, you know, and like that type of thing is really inspiring to me. It's a question I ask myself like all the time, basically. It's like, how are we doing it? I think music choice is like a big one too, like pushing it forward. Like, again, like Forsyth is just coming to my mind, but like, you know, him using somebody like James Blake for like an evening, like for like a kind of like a neoclassical ballet, I think is really interesting because it's not ballet music. Mm-hmm. Kyle Abraham does that a lot too. Like he's made work alongside me actually in similar programs for City Ballet where he's used like R&B and like hip hop and rap and stuff like within the ballet sphere. I think like that also kind of breaks the mold a little. I don't know, it's hard to say.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So this is your second visit to Bloomington and to
Mm-hmm.
IU, and you'll be back hopefully in the future.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave after working on a project with the students here, what kinds of lessons do you feel you hope that you imparted upon them, not only in dancing but in life in general?
I like to like create an environment that obviously is like positive, right? Ballet can be very hard. It's taxing on the body and it's taxing on the brain. You have to be a quick learner. Like it's not an easy art form by any means. I think I would just say like I'd like them to come away with a process of mind knowing that like you just don't have to take yourself so seriously all the time. I kind of like to be silly in the studio and like crack jokes and like kind of break break the ice a little, because it is such an intense environment that like I feel like it's really beneficial. I think if any artist in any form, whether it be music or fine art or whatever, performance, like if you are taking yourself too seriously, like, I don't know, I don't think the art's good. Like, I think you always need to, like, you know, have, it kind of, you lose the freedom in a way in it. And I think I would say I just would want them to like understand that about me, and eventually maybe take that with them into the ballet world. And even like, I think it's like a good lesson in life too. Just don't take yourself too seriously. It's okay. Like, yeah.
On those sage and poignant words, I'd like to say thank you for joining us, Gianna, on Backstories today.
Thank you.
Best wishes with your world premiere at the IU Jacob School of Music. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you.